Welcome back to another show and tell video. Today we're just going to brush across a quick topic here. Aftermarket or replacement handguard selection. So there's a few things to keep in mind. One is knowing what type of platform you have and the dimensions of, say, the handguard on your current platform. Not every platform, of course, is going to be the same, but there are some standard measurements for uh, particular types of platforms. So to try to categorize, if we look at this particular example, this is a pretty common uh, M4 AR-15 carbine pattern of barrel arrangement, with the position of the gas block being at a certain location. Barrel length can be different barrel lengths, but typically standard to reach a minimum for across the states, at least 16 inches. Other countries may vary, even locally it may vary, and you can always get uh, a registration process to then be allowed to have any barrel length you want for a particular item. It's just whether you want to go through those extra steps or not to approach those options. But here we have a standard M4 carbine dimensions here. So you have the delta ring here, which provides tension with a spring in this direction to provide tension to hold what's actually a clamshell of two pieces in the handguard in place. This is locked against placed against the rear portion of, in this case, the front sight base, or if you had a gas block, a low profile one, it would be up against that if you still had that. Or another option would be a free float option. But in this case, because you do have a front cap fixed to the front sight post assembly, the two-piece clamshell option is usually the most common option. This one would separate top and bottom. Here's the bottom. Here's how it looks on the top. It's a little bit hard to remove, so I'll leave that in place, but you can actually see your typical, profile for your barrel here, leading up to a larger portion, which helps secure this front, in this case, the round cap. There are also triangular cap versions as well, so that's something to keep in mind, that the locking portions of your handguard do interface with the shape and dimensions of your caps. So that's another thing to always keep in mind too. So length, whether or not you have a delta ring and fixed cap there, or if you're actually starting with a pattern with a kind of a barrel with just the extension, no barrel nut, no front sight block, but you can then choose your own gas block arrangement with your own gas tube, and then from there you can decide what sort of mounting options to actually attach the barrel, which then would interface with the handguard and then connect it all to the receiver and the rest of your item. So quick look around there. And also another thing too to consider is, if you are going to take that extra step to replace a handguard, why are you replacing the handguard? Is it just purely for cosmetics? Is it actually for some sort of ease of use, more ergonomics? Or is it really for being able to mount a variety of options depending on what your mission profile is? If we put this aside, if we take a look at something similar, this is actually a 308 or 7.62 platform. So right away, dimensionally, we are already on different dimensions. You're going to have a larger overall diameter receiver with your screw threaded area to mount your barrel nut. Larger area for a larger barrel extension. 308 barrels typically are quite larger in diameter than, say, a smaller 5.56 or 223 caliber barrel. And likewise, things like glass blocks, even the low profile ones, will be slightly larger than the low profile gas blocks on a smaller barrel item. So you are going to have clearance differences. Thus, handguards for 308 platforms are going to be typically larger in diameter than, per se, 223. So here you can see already dimensionally, this is a little bit different already. And in this case, you can see here, this has no front sight base assembly. This is purely a low profile gas block. Here's your gas tube running underneath there. And in this case, I went for an exposed gas block look as opposed to one concealed. So if I had actually used a slightly longer, but then also slightly heavier handguard, this would have been covered. And you can see here I had mounted a variety of items, including covering some of the m-lok portions with some grippy sections here. And trying to think if there's anything else to highlight really quick. But again, difference here is this is a free-floating style of handguard. There is a dedicated barrel nut from the brand maker for this particular handguard, this one being Midwest Industries. This one also up here was Midwest Industries as well. And you can see here how this is now kind of interfacing against the toothed portion of the barrel nut under there to help keep that aligned, locked in place. There's also kind of a locking tab under here, which also interfaces with those teeth. And then finally, there are two large nuts that actually thread and lock into the bottom portion of the handguard, providing that last bit of tension to hold everything in place and make everything pretty rock solid. Another thing I like about this particular brand of handguard is I'm trying to put a lot of pressure here. You can see there's very slight flex between the barrel and the handguard. The handguard itself is not moving, but I can move the barrel because it is long, it is flexible, and they tend to have their own harmonic whip pattern, which is natural. So you'll have that option by going with a free-floating handguard. We set this aside. Let's take another step back towards the 5.56 platform. This one just happens to be in a different color to match, well, sort of match the receiver color. This one just happens to be also a Midwest Industries handguard. So just happened to grab 3 from the same company today. This one, as you can see, is also a free-floating option. In this case, I did choose to conceal the gas block. In this case, it's more of a mid-length here, deeper under the handguard, as opposed to closer to the front portion there. But you can see here we have a lot of clearance, and we still have a lot of free barrel space length there. Plenty of room for accessories, as you can see there. And lengthwise, handguards do come in a variety of lengths, so if you're going for the free float option, you can go as short as you want or as long as you want. As long as everything clears, you can even cover up the end of the barrel if that's what you cosmetically desire, or you can have exposed length of barrel for whatever other barrel extension purposes you want to put on there. But just taking a look at just a few options, there are very many options, many brands out there of handguards, and with many other features, whether or not they use traditional screw-in style add-on items, where they progress to the kind of tab and lock systems that predated m-lok. There were a couple different ones. And then, of course, we had an m-lok, and there were a couple other more proprietary systems as well. But this might be the most common one you might see currently today until somebody comes up with a better design. But One important thing to always keep in mind is make sure you match up the right handguard to the right platform and plan your measurements beforehand to avoid any um, possibly cost mistakes or having to possibly transfer an item to a different item because it just doesn't fit properly. But taking a quick look at some handguards. This has been another show and tell video. Feel free to check out the show and tell videos on the channel. We do unboxing videos as well as a selection of book review media reviews. Feel free to check all those out. Feel free to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. See you next time.